Welcome to Fundamental Journalism Skills Design Part 2. In Part 1, we looked at the basic package elements of a design spread and talked about design composition and design elements, looking at some RJ Media work. On the website, you have the vocabulary list and you watched Part 1. You also took the quiz. Today we are going to spend some more time with our friends at Stanley Lake High School and take a close look at their concept, their placement, the rhythm of their pages, and really the way that they balance images to create a concept for the magazine. Looking at the first couple spreads here, we can see the theme, certainly using our lead art, our wonderful alternative story forms. Here we see a nice graph in the top right. We have secondary art with captions on the bottom right, a lead dominant image, lots of different ways to tell a story. Right down the middle here, an alternative story form using some spot color, some secondary images on the right, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways to wear your costume on the left. 30 seconds for each sport here in the sports section. Use of photography. Look how they use the white space in between and those gutters in between images, that traditional white space to give it a balanced look. And then the lead or the cover story here, a wonderful lead art and headline and deck to begin this multiple page cover story using spot color, using typography. The balance here of the headline with the image, very good. We see some nice lead art that stands out, as well as the alternative story form. Pay close attention to how they use subheads at the Lake News Magazine and pull-out quotes. Lots of places for the eye to go. The direction, the way they manage the movement of components within their composition, very good. And then the final 2 pages of this story on the Jefferson County School District's walkout last year. Really powerful storytelling done in so many ways, with images, with typography, with pull-out quotes, with alternative story forms, and excellent copy. A photo essay here. Dominant lead art, headline deck, copy, some profile pieces on different students. Very concept oriented and thematic. Story here on male cheerleaders. Man up, great headline. Complemented by secondary art, alternative story form on the right. We have the reverse, white on black here. Powerful storytelling about the use of hookah lounges and the effect of hookah smoke. Informative story. We see that white space being used. Great concept here, spending a day on Pearl Street. A photo essay along with copy. Lead art. The subheadings here being the timestamps for different times of the day. Really good story concept to attend an event or go to a place and write about it. And in the editorials, illustration used there. Let's take a look at this issue. The cover story you are really going to like here. A wonderful cover art there, actually arranged photography and then put into InDesign. We can see the concept in this issue as well. Look at the grouping, unified elements as a whole based on their proximity, their similarity, that use of white space, that use of alternative story forms. They do a nice job with value as well. You've seen that, the measure of lightness and darkness in a composition and balancing those out throughout a spread. Great color. Love this concept here. You're running late. In 5 minutes, what can you do? It's essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 alternative story forms in one spread to tell a story. Lead art, secondary art, some nice graphics. Great piece here. Look at the balance and how it really flows. guides the viewer through a composition by the placement of the components here in the package, the spatial relationship of those components. On the bottom left, we have the students sort of looking up. That leads our eye into the right-hand side page there where we have our beautiful photography, cropped, cut out, going straight up the page. That was a nice spread. Some really nice work with lines here, baseline work, emphasis, a photo essay here, taking a stuffed, looks like an alligator here around town. Cool concept for a story. Photography, nice use of white space in those gutters. And here's the cover story, the reverse white on black again. Beautiful images, a wonderful story, lots of entry points for the viewer here. The headline, of course, created with the actual, I talked to the editors about how they did this. They actually laid out on a black table the actual spices and elements of cooking and took a photo of it and then overlaid it for the design. Stories within a story, the subheadings offer different entry points for these different chefs, students involved in cooking, talking about recipes and the power of food and the cathartic energy of being in the kitchen. Really nice story, and the design is exceptional. Makes you want to read it. Look at the balance of the images. A profile here, going big on the first 2 pages with lead art. Excellent photography, makes excellent design. Bleeds all the way out across the trim. Headline deck, and then our inside pages for this story. We see a pull-out quote, lots of copy, secondary art with another pull-out quote, and some other profiles here. You get the idea. They do a great job at the lake with contrast, differences in color, size, shape, location. Really simple thing here, this story about twin sisters, and a nice photo. Taking a white line right down the middle and separating that gives a really nice feel to that and makes it work with the rest of it. Our alternative story form here on actually how twins are made. Interesting there. Think about ways you can tell the story and using your design to help tell that story other than just the copy. Again, the use of the gutter white space there to separate those photos. Love the illustration work here. Look at the flow where your eye goes, the balance of the elements. The white space is very purposeful and traditional. Now let's take a look at some National Scholastic Press Association Design of the Year winners. First here, Design of the Year for front page, or page 1 they call it. Typography used here, graphics. You'll see a lot of illustrations and graphic work. But notice the use of emphasis and direction, alignment. The balance is very good. It creates that harmony, that agreement between all elements of design to achieve a concept. Love this here. Simple idea here, interesting. Cover stories are great ways. Look at this here. This is actually bullet casings and bullets lined up in the shape, standing on end in the shape of the country. Very creative idea there. Recreation here, photo recreation and photo illustration. Very busy, but it works. Great color, great scale. More photo illustrations here for page 1 winners. Cover story illustrations, sleep deprivation there from our friends at George Washington High School. Now let's take a look at some winners in the Design of the Year category for actual spreads. Look at the use of topography here and how it runs right along the dominant image in that gun culture in America. Spot color here. Lots going on here. Look at the alternative story forms. How do you tell the story of an election? Get the viewer inside the page in lots of different ways. Nobody wants to read pages and pages of copy. Look at the subheadings here. Look at the color. Look at the infographics used. Here, beautiful photography, illustration, copy, alternative story form, headline. Look at the leading lines there and how we are directed through the flow of the piece, where our eye goes based on the position of the photography and how that complements the type and the copy. Here we have a nice alternative story form, two of them in fact. Great spread here, headline, baseline work, three alternative story forms. Lots of ways into these stories for the viewer. Wonderful respect of white space here. Look how that flows with the cutout photo, black and white. Here's some infographics. More infographics of the year winners. There's a lot you can do to tell stories and allow the viewer into the story using the elements of design. Let's break down the golf swing here. This is a masterfully created infographic. Fashion diagrams. Love this. Great white space. Wonderful illustrations here. Hire your artists. Get your artists on board. We have wonderful artists at school who can do a lot of this kind of work for you and who would love to be published, especially on the cover. Look at this. Beautiful, and made even more beautiful by the respect to the elements of design. It's all about the placement of elements within the page. This is a story on social media, Twitter, Beauty and the Beast, plugged in. These are great cover stories. Some of them very simple. It's all about the use of color, the direction. Manage the viewer's eye movement across the page by paying close attention to how you will achieve the concept you've set out to achieve. And if you know the elements of design and you can look at professional or student media or look at a blank page and know what you want to do with it. This from Rock Canyon High School, our friends down the road. A great piece on the cost of running a school district. Lots of infographics. Here's a piece on cheating. You do a poll for the student body. How do you get people to read it? Well, create an infographic that draws the viewer in. Great lead art here, dominant image, profile photo. Makes me want to read the story. Really nice white on black decision here. Purposeful decisions for the story. Lots of ways in here. Story about new buildings at the school. Quick facts, students weigh in, top 5, pull out quote. Look at the balance of elements. Pay attention to where your eye goes when you see a spread. What's the direction? How do they manage the movement of the components? Love this. A lot of this, of course, relies on excellent photography. Illustrations here. Look at the use of typography as a design element. Really helps with the unity across the page. Love the flow of this page. We get some contrasting elements, but the way that they're placed and the direction they take you, you can really see the designers have an understanding of the elements of design. And that equals harmony. Lots of color here. Big photography. Look at the use of the typography on that rafting photo. Using that to really tell the story. Going big on photography here. And then some more illustrations. Here's that cover story on social media and Twitter. More alternative story forms. You see all the elements are there. You can start to see how a designer makes those choices with the spacing. This is beautiful here. Sports section by the numbers. We see this all the time in Sports Illustrated and professional magazines. Great piece on video game addiction here. Looking at the different graphics. How to pitch a tent. These are handmade graphics from scratch, but not without inspiration. Go places, look for things, steal ideas. Love this illustration here to accompany this story. The flow of that was beautiful, coming up from the left to the right. Some more illustration winners. Design of the Year, National Scholastic Press Association winners. You can do this stuff, and it's all about knowing the elements of design and then using them. Look for inspiration everywhere. Thanks for joining me for Fundamental Journalism Skills Design Part 2. Take a look at the critiques on the website, and we'll talk more about it in class.